On this episode of the podcast, we talk about how to come up with the best and most funniest ideas for your videos. We also cover the best strategy for getting clients on board with your crazy ideas and why massive corporations with seemingly unlimited budgets might not be your ideal client after all. What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers that are wanting to build a business without burning out. On this show, we cover topics like how to get more clients, how to get paid what you're worth, how to work smarter and not just harder, that. Man, I've been doing this work for almost 17 years. No, for over 17 years. I've owned a video production company for seemingly ever. I've got employees. We have a studio. We've worked with massive brands. We've worked with not massive brands, nonprofits, small organizations, individuals, the gamut. And I've learned a lot over these 17 years. And I would love to be able to help guide you so that you can build a business that really fulfills the creative itch inside of you and also blesses people and is amazing. That's my sales pitch. So I'm glad that you're here. This is a really fun episode. And you're in for a treat. If you're a fan of videos like Dollar Shave Club, I remember when the first Dollar Shave Club video came out years ago. I was blown. It was one of the funniest things. But also, if you're familiar with the Harmon Brothers, I've had Daniel on this show a long time ago from Harmon Brothers, and they've got Squatty Potty, chat books, a number of hilarious videos. Joseph is a student of the Harmon Brothers, and this is what his business is all about. And so his story is really, really cool. I'm excited for you to meet him, and he's got some awesome insight. I know for me personally, making silly, ridiculous videos, that's really how I got my start back in like junior high, making just the dumbest zombie movies with ketchup and all that stuff. Obviously, I did not figure out how to monetize that, but all these years later, if I could choose, man, I would love to be doing more funny videos. So I was very inspired from this interview. Before we jump in, I want you to know that I have a brand new workshop where I'm teaching you how to consistently earn over $100,000 per year in your video business while working less than 40 hours a week. For me, I have a team. We're generating over $1 million a year in our production business, and I'm only working not even 3 days a week on this business. And I want to share the things that have worked for me over these years and what's working for me today. So in this workshop, I cover the strategies that I've used to land our dream clients. I go over the 3 myths that most filmmakers believe hold them back from achieving greatness in this industry, and the must-have components for marketing to your ideal clients. I also share my best-kept secret for getting clients to pay us more than our competition for what we do, and one of my favorite topics is working smarter, not harder, as you kind of heard me stumble over that earlier. And in this workshop, I show you how to build an automated lead machine that works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The workshop is totally free, and you can access it today if you register at studiosherpas.com/workshop. I am super excited about it, and I can't wait to hear what kind of success that you have after going through it. Again, it's studiosherpas.com/workshop. With that, let's get into this interview right now. What's up, friends? Hey, you're in for a treat today. My guest is Joseph Wilkins, who founded Procreative almost 20 years ago, which is a marketing agency focused on infomercials, or was, I guess we'll find out, is or was, TV commercials and online video. Joseph has directed thousands of ad campaigns for clients, including Google, LinkedIn, McDonald's, Goldman Sachs, Chevrolet, Home Depot, and the list goes on. As habits shifted from broadcast to online, Joseph launched funnysalesvideos.com, where his team now creates attention-grabbing, viral-style sales videos that entertain viewers into buying. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ryan. It's good to be here. I was telling you before we started, I've listened to you guys for I don't know how many years, so it's kind of a fun full circle to be on the show.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. Congratulations on all of your success. The list of clientele is it's rather impressive.
Thank you. Although we don't work, I mean, we'll get into this, but that's kind of my old life.
Yeah.
Those clients, as impressive as they were boring as can be to work with. And we do a lot more fun stuff now, which is what life's about.
I love that. You know, I feel like I just saw a reel that we just posted from a previous episode, and I think so many of us have visions for what we want our businesses to be, what we want our filmmaking career to be. And I'm imagining that there was a day where you dreamed of having clients like McDonald's and Home Depot and all of these like massive corporations so that you could do, you know, huge things with big budgets. It's just so funny because, you know, hearing what you're just saying, it's like, oh yeah, that one day that was a dream. And like today you're like, oh gosh, like not,
Yeah,
that was not.
I can't tell you, and I won't name who this story goes along with.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll just be more generic. The bigger the client, the more of a nightmare there are to work with, because you've got layers and layers and layers of management and approval and, you know, brand guidelines. And so, yeah, when I started this business, I thought, you know, that would be my dream. Now it's kind of more my nightmare.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful. I feel like we could literally end the podcast after this little segment here, because for so many of us, like, that's the dream. It's like, if I could land a job with Nike and just like do all the cool things. And it's great that it's on your resume. And I'm sure like it helps today as you're working with other companies. To have that on your resume is very helpful, but also the grass is greener on the other side. I'll also say I'm certain that there are people that are born to do that kind of work for their life because they love it. They're so passionate about it. But I think there's just a side of that work that isn't as fulfilling as I think a lot of us want it or think it to be.
Yes. Yeah, so true. It is so true.
Well, so let's talk about, I mean, I've looked at your work. It's super funny, wacky. You know, you guys have done all sorts of ridiculous things. First question, most importantly, are you actually funny? Like
no,
you, Joseph?
No. And that, I mean, obviously everyone thinks that they are funny in a way.
Yeah.
But I would tell anyone listening that what we'll talk about today is kind of my transition from corporate to the kind of stuff that I do now. And my big trepidation when I made the shift was, how am I going to produce? In fact, let me back up. For the first 15 years of our business, when the phone would ring and a client would say, hey, I've seen this really funny viral video online, we want to do something like that.
Yeah,
my response was always, sorry, we don't do funny. Because here's the thing, Ryan, the worst thing that you can do is try to be funny when you're not. And it's even worse news than that, because I actually do consider myself probably above average in the funny department.
Yeah.
But being an idea in your brain that's funny feels totally different once you've shot it, edited it, and are watching it with a cold audience that doesn't care about you. right? They're not giving you courtesy laughs.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I found out really quickly, the very few times that I had tried it, was that it just didn't work. And so I would turn down work all the time until, and this was kind of the evolution, about 15 years into my owning this video production agency, where we typically created TV commercials, infomercials, and YouTube style corporate videos.
Yeah.
15 years into it, we finally said, okay, everyone's leaving TV, and that's a huge generalization, but our results were going down on TV because everyone was shifting to watching online, and most people were watching on social media. And so you can't just take an ad that was created for TV and put it on social media and expect the same results. Right. It's a totally different mindset. People are going there to be entertained, right? They're going there to waste time. They're going there for a break. The last thing they want is to have you shove down their throat, some boring sales video. And so the closer that you can make your content to what it is that they've come to consume in the first place, it only makes sense that you're going to connect. You're actually going to earn a few seconds and hopefully earn a few more seconds. And that's kind of how our videos are structured. But I realized that humor was the way to do it. But I wasn't going to be the one to write any of that content because I'm not a professional comedy writer. Okay, this is a really long way to answer your question. The answer to the question of am I funny is no, but I know freelancers and writers and comedians who are. Mm-hmm. So on any video that you see at funnysalesvideos.com, automatically know there's been at least 8 writers involved in the script. Think about Saturday Night Live. That's like a treadmill of every single week they have to come up with, I don't know, is it an hour? 30 minutes? They have to come up with a ton of content. How do they do that? Well, there's 20 writers that get locked in a room for a week and have to brainstorm. And so it's all about having this brain share of multiple, very good, very professionally trained comedy writers. But it doesn't have to break the bank. I mean, think about sites like Fiverr and Upwork. There are good professional comedy writers that will freelance for you. Find 5 or 6 of those, add them into your virtual writer's room, and that's essentially how we do what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was the evolution then? You got to that 15-year mark, and I mean, to go from really big jobs, I'm guessing were somewhat profitable. I mean, you were in business for that long. Oh, yeah. Congratulations for being in business for as long as you have been. But to get that far along and then to shift, was it kind of like you were doing that stuff like, hey, let's try this, and then you did 2 or 3, and you're like, man, we need to just build the brand around this, or what was the evolution like?
Yeah, so it was literally, and in business, you don't really hear of too many overnight successes, but this was a case of an overnight success. So for the first 15 years, the biggest video that we'd ever got online as far as video views, obviously we had millions of views on television, but online, I think we had one video that had 100,000 video views for a company that was a very big company that had a lot of followers. In fact, it was a network marketing company, so it already had a big built-in, audience of people that were going to share this video. And we thought, we were amazing when we got a video that hit 100,000 views. And then the very first video that we tried after I'd spent about a year to find the right people to get on the bus to be on my virtual writers team, our very first video that we launched got it was 3 videos in one campaign. So basically the same character, but 3 different videos. Between that campaign, we got over 7 million views. And more importantly, immediately generated $500,000 in revenue for this client that was a niche of a niche, like not a really, really small company with an even more niche audience. And so we immediately, literally within a few days of launching that campaign, we knew we had something. And literally, I kid you not, 5 years later, That's all we've done. I mean, occasionally we'll take on a project for a client that's just what I call a straight video,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just so much fun. And more importantly, for our clients, it gets so much more attention, more likes, more comments, more shares, but ultimately more views. I mean, our biggest campaign right now has over 100 million views.
Dang.
Millions and millions of dollars in sales. Now, let me tell you the dirty secret, because what I just said sounds really impressive. Here's the dirty secret. Anytime you see a video online these days that looks like it's gone viral, unless it's a cat video or a celebrity video, it's not organically viral, right? What it means is that it works when our clients spend $1 to advertise, right? So they take our video, they put it on YouTube or on Facebook, but it's a paid ad, right? For every $1 that they spend, they get 2, 3, 4, 5, as many. I mean, one of our campaigns had a 19x return on ad spend.
Jeez.
So in 1 week, a client spent $1,000 on ads and made $19.6 thousand in return. So that's when you see a video that's got hundreds of millions of views. What it really means is that's a profitable ad, because the company is keeping spending on that because they're getting money in return. So that's the secret, is to get really great creative and then put an advertising budget behind it. And that's what the clients that are at Funny Sales Videos are doing. And that's what, to your listeners, think about clients that you have that are kind of getting bored with the kinds of videos that you're doing. Or more importantly, the videos that you're doing are getting ignored, right? So they're not getting the views. They're not getting the comments. I mean, I could spend forever talking about the kinds of comments and numbers of shares. Yes, the majority of our ads are paid, the views, but I would say, 10% probably are organically viral. So 10% of 100 million views. How'd you like to have 10 million free views?
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Actually, when you had shared that 100 million views, I wrote down a question. I was like, how much of that was organic? So thank you for being transparent in that, because that can feel daunting and like, oh my gosh. But to your point, they're putting money behind it. So it doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, if you're helping them sell like tons and tons, you don't care. I mean, it's cool bragging rights to say like, yeah, we've got a video that did 100 million, got 100 million views. But then really, you'd say like, well, and this client actually came back because they sold a ton of stuff and they've got more stuff that they want to do. Like, that's the win, right?
Yeah. And just to clarify, it wasn't one video that got 100 million views. It was one campaign.
Oh, sure.
So, it was, I think it was 6 videos between them. But one of them, our very first one, has over 60 million views, just one video.
Yeah.
Which,
Is the majority of what you're selling or what your clients are selling in these videos, is it like a product always, or are there any services that you've ever done?
I tell my clients the only kind of video that's a good fit, or the only kind of company that's a good fit for a funny sales video, is a company where you have a human that you're trying to connect with. Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We have mortgage companies that have hired us. We have, business SaaS products that are targeting the C-suite, very high, intelligent people. That's a totally different kind of humor than selling an acne cream to a teenager.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to create an immediate sale, generate a lead, raise money. I mean, we've helped startups. One startup, we helped raise $1 million in 1 week with a video. So it doesn't matter the use case. I would say there are a few exceptions, where you probably shouldn't use humor, but 99% of the businesses out there. And I even say the more boring the video, the better your humor's going to connect, because nobody else would have thought of that.
Right. Oh, it's fun.
So if you're boring, this is the perfect kind of video to make you unboring.
I've got some friends in like the funeral industry, and
Yes, that's one of the industries that I've been approached
oh
by that I
man,
did turn down.
yeah. They do need. I mean, let's be honest. There needs to be some, humor. Anyway, how are you guys marketing yourself? So you're doing all this like amazing stuff for everybody else.
Good grief.
What are you doing?
Honestly,
Anything?
well, by the very nature of what we do, it gets seen. And so I kid you not, for 5 years, we have had more business than we can handle on referrals. Now, total transparency, that's beginning to slow down. And funny that you asked the question, because literally an hour ago, I was on the phone to a friend of mine that's that's setting up a campaign for us to run YouTube ads.
Yeah.
And the campaign is real simple. It's showing the results that we've got.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, man, I really appreciate you being transparent. That's good. And, and I think you're the first person I've ever interviewed that says the word literally the same way that Rob Lowe in Parks and Rec says it. So I appreciate that. You're not from like Detroit, Michigan. Where are you from originally?
No, London.
London. Heard of it.
Yeah, I grew up in London and then moved out here 20 years ago. So kind of spent half my life in London and half my life out in the United States.
And where are you based currently?
Utah.
Okay. I like Utah.
Yeah. It's a lot of film going on here.
Yeah.
It's a really good state as far as locations. I mean, I can drive 1 hour to be in the mountains, another hour I'm on the salt flats where they shot some of Star Wars.
Oh man.
A few hours the other direction, we're in the Red Rocks country. I mean, there's some really, really good visual variety here.
Yeah, we've vacationed out there a couple of different times. Moab and Zion National Park. Man, those places so cool, so fun. So I'm curious. I'm not sure if you're comfortable talking numbers, but if you can paint for somebody that wants to dip their toe and say, I would like to try doing something that's funny, and maybe I'll go on Fiverr, Upwork, somewhere. What should somebody expect to roughly pay for somebody to help write something, a funny script?
It's a great question. So most of my clients are kind of stunned when I tell them that we won't take on a video unless they give us 4 months to produce it.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes us 2 months, and we have a very structured process. And actually, I've outlined all of this in a free ebook that your listeners can download on our website. Awesome. Just go to funnysalesvideos.com, and it's down at the bottom. It's called 8 Steps that anyone can take to produce one of these kinds of videos. So, the whole process of creating a script is the most important part, right? You never want to go into production with a half-baked script. And that's the only thing that I would caution your listeners on. Don't go rush out and try to make something funny and then go produce it without going through at least something close to what I outline in these steps, because I've learned the hard way that it just didn't work. Again, the most important part is finding the right people to help you write it. Yeah. But not just writing it, but you then got to test it. Right. You got to, something's only funny if it makes somebody laugh or at least smile. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't be funny to you unless you're the person that you're trying to target, right? So in my world, I don't create art. I mean, I do, but that's not my focus. I create sales. And so the only goal the 2 goals of my videos are, number 1, to make an immediate sale or an immediate lead gen. And number 2 is to make you remember me if you don't buy me today, so that you'll be more likely to buy me next time you see it. And so everything that we do is structured around the marketing fundamentals that we get from the research phase. So before we take on any project, we spend at least, a week or 2 reading customer reviews of the client, looking at videos that they've done in the past, looking at their website, looking at their competitors' website, reading their competitors' reviews, talking to their customers. Literally, having the customers write the script for us. And then we'll go out and we'll start creating a story, and we will, where possible, we'll then quiz people who are the customer avatar, right? The target of who we're trying to sell. And we'll have them read our scripts, or we'll have them listen to our jokes. And we're not asking them questions. We're looking at their faces. Like, we're literally looking, am I getting the result?
Right.
And I don't want to ask my mum, because she'll say it's funny because she loves me and she wants me to feel good. Cold traffic doesn't care about you. And that's who we're running these videos to. And so the more focus grouping and the more, survey monkeying, or however you figure out to test, the better. But again, it's back to your question of how much. Well, there's about 20 people on my team that are going to touch this video, and it's going to take us 4 months. How much would you charge? So these aren't, $5,000 videos. These are tens of thousands of dollars, but most of the time, the low tens of thousands of dollars. Having said all of that, there's companies, and a lot of your listeners have heard of people like the Harmon Brothers, and other video companies out there that do amazing work, better than anything that we've ever done, and have the results to prove it. We've actually been through their mentorship program, so we follow the same. We follow the same steps. In fact, I was on their podcast a while ago, talking about the results that we've had because of the training. But their videos have been in the millions of dollars. And so, we try to get the closest that we can to that kind of quality, but still on a budget that, at a pinch, most small businesses can afford, especially if, they're going to get the kinds of returns that some of ours has. So I know I dance around your question a little, but I think that, every video is going to be different, right? Depending on how many actors and locations and props and effects. But, 30 grand is probably the base price of one of the videos that you'll see on our site.
And thank you for sharing that. That's helpful. I know people love knowing, just getting especially, when I started, it was like, I don't know. I have no idea, like, what to charge. Like, what do people pay for? I don't know.
I still don't know 20 years later. I mean, how many times have you had a client call you up and say, how much? And you quickly Google them to figure out how much do you think you could charge? How much? I mean, come on, who hasn't done that?
Let's see, the homedepot.com. Let's see. That's good. So I think even like narrowing what I'm after here, we've done a handful of scripted videos. We've done like some explainer videos, and then we've done some like more fun scripted, it's sort of funny-ish, tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff. And we at least have one copywriter that we lean on quite a bit. He's done some great, like, very like straightforward, not funny copy, and then he's done some other stuff that's just been amazing. And I'm always like, we've got this idea, we think it's kind of a good idea or whatever, and then we hand it off to our copywriter, and then he gets us like 3 different versions, and like everyone, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so good. Like, took what I thought was a good idea, now I'm like, man, my idea is really really dumb, but compared to like what he's able to do with it. And usually for the projects that we might be charging $20,000-$30,000, maybe, pretty similar to what you're speaking on. We're going to pay around $2,500 for like a pretty well-baked script. Is that like, close to what you might be paying your team of copywriters?
Well, it all you have to do is go on Fiverr.com. Most of our writers now, we don't use Fiverr, but I would say, maybe 25% of the guys on Fiverr are to the level that I would at least give them a shot. And, some of them, and again, I'm putting at least 6 of them on every script. So what you just said is what I experienced with each one. So imagine every time it's getting better and better and better and better. And, for $100, you can have somebody on Fiverr spend a couple of hours, punch up your script. You're not looking for, here's the thing, you're not looking for comedians to tell a story.
Right.
Comedians aren't good at that. In fact, I could drop a couple of names that I've used that I would think these guys are amazing. I've seen them on TV. and they're awful at writing a story, but they're really good at taking an existing story and just adding a joke here, punching up a line here, rephrasing something, or just bringing in a random idea. So you need so I start with a marketing copywriter. He's gonna create the marketing bullet points that we have to hit to make a sale. Then I'm gonna bring in a creative writer. Okay, so he's gonna create the story, which is basically follows the same flow of we meet a person with a problem who meets a guide that gives them the solution, and then we show how his life is transformed, or her life, or whatever, right? And then there's all sorts of other things that we have to add in, like the opening 5 seconds. You got to have the biggest bang hook that grabs your attention and piques curiosity. And we actually film and edit 3 different versions for most campaigns, and we ABC split test which one does the best. But you had that story structure. And then once you've got that, that's when I bring in my 5 or 6 or 7 comedy writers to say, just spend a couple of hours on this. Give me as many jokes as you come up with. I don't let them see each other's jokes because they don't, everyone needs a fresh shot. And then my job, I'm the creative director on pretty much every video. My job is to decide, which babies do I kill? Right? Because that's literally the case that, a lot of the time, some of the funniest stuff doesn't end up getting in because it doesn't further the sale. It's sales first and then entertainment second. So that's kind of the process that I go through. But to answer your question, for $500, you could do the comedy section. But you're right, you need a good writer that's going to, it's going to be about $1,000 for a marketing copywriter and about the same for a good creative writer. So you're in the ballpark of the same budget that we typically carve out for the writing.
Yeah, I love that. So the process then for you, like you're taking this as the creative director, you'd mentioned like watching people's reactions. In what context? Are you on a Zoom call with people or like parking lots?
So let me give you the spectrums. Let me give you the different end of the spectrums. And depending on the budget, will determine how scrappy or how high end you go. So on one end of the spectrum, for example, the Little Giant Ladder infomercial, very first project we ever did 20 years ago when I started this company, did over $200 million in sales off of one infomercial. I mean, talk about starting off with a bang. We were one of 3 production companies on that project, but they spent tens of thousands of dollars just on focus grouping.
Wow.
So what that looked like was we literally hired a focus group company with one of those one-way mirror rooms, and our team was on one side of the mirror. On the other side was like 20 people round a big screen TV, and each of them had like this dial that they had like 3 settings, like a smiley face, a neutral, and a frowny face. And literally we would watch the 30-minute show and we would have 20 people and we would see these graphs and we could immediately see, okay, they're getting bored here. Oh, they like that part. I mean, that you don't have that kind of money in 99% of your projects, but I mean, that was a luxury. So scale it down all the way to the other end. I've literally had my assistants go out on the street corner downtown, and this sounds awful, but just profile people, right? Just pick out people from the crowd and say, I'll give you $5 for 30 seconds of your time. Let me read you this script, and literally just get feedback. Or, I mean, this sounds funny, but we'll stop the UPS man when he comes here to deliver something.
Oh my gosh, he probably loves that.
What's this Anytime somebody comes to the studio, most of the time, if we're editing something, they're not leaving without watching the edit. And again, we're not asking them what they think. We're looking at their reaction. We're letting their body, but then we're also looking for buying signals after they watch the video. What do they say? If they ask, where can I buy that? Or how much is it? Obviously, those are buying signals. If they ask questions where it's obvious that it's not clear, then we know we have work to do. You can also do this after you release the video, but maybe haven't spent a whole bunch of money. You can spend enough money that you gather data on YouTube that will give you these graphs that are essentially the same as those focus groups. You can see, where are people bouncing? Where are they leaving the video? obviously most of our videos, they feel like a piece of sketch comedy. And then at a certain point you realize, oh, this is an ad.
Yeah.
And that's normal to see a whole bunch of people bounce when they realize it's
right.
an ad. But other than that, if you see huge cliffs in it's called the retention curve. Those are all clues of how you can, figure out if this is going to work before your clients spend a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I remember, I think one of my favorite Harmon Brothers. Do you have a favorite Harmon Brothers commercial spot?
I would say Squatty Potty has to be my favorite.
I think mine is, I think it's Chatbooks. The woman starts in the bathtub. I remember showing that to my wife, and that's probably why I like it so much, because she just died. I mean, she could relate to it. We both could relate to it. And that's
we actually modeled that 60 million video view that we had. We modeled that video after Chatbooks. If you watch them both,
so good. This is all so enlightening, and it's inspiring me. I've got a couple of ideas on some projects. I'm like, I actually need to consider making this funny. So much more enjoyable than just the straight up videos that we're used to doing. What does your process look like? So you're chatting with a client who's been referred to you probably or whatever. They're interested. You propose whatever you're going to do, and they're ready to engage. What is next for you? Are you developing? Are you doing research?
Well, I would say before any of that happens, and this is the honest truth, the most important part to me is getting a good feeling when I get on a Zoom call with a client, right? Because with this kind of video, I mean, in previous videos, client calls up, they want an origin story, or they want a customer testimonial story. No problem. Sign the contract. Let's go shoot it. With this kind of video, this is more like a relationship, and they've got to trust me and I've got to trust them, because I mean, think about how many nightmare clients you've had over the past however long you've been doing it. You know them, right? They come to mind. If you get into bed with a nightmare client on this kind of project that's going to take you 4 months, good luck. I don't want to be in that relationship. So I got to first figure out, number one, do they have a genuinely good product and a genuinely different product that I can create a genuinely compelling story around? That's not always the case. I love to create videos that do good. Like I'm not going to do a video for anyone selling snake oil. I'm not going to do a video for anyone selling anything that I feel is unethical, because number one, it's just not going to work long term. They maybe get a short term spike. But number two, I don't want to go to my grave thinking, hey, I helped swindle old ladies out of money, right? So you got to create stuff. If you're an ethical person, which I'm hoping everyone listening to this is, creating good stuff just sells better. And so figuring out that, is it a good relationship? Is it a good product? And then really importantly, does it have a big enough audience that is well targetable, right? Can you define it? Does it have a Facebook avatar or profile? Because there's no point spending a whole bunch of money on a video that has like $1,000 people that you can target. I mean, that's never going to be a good thing. We want to create videos that customers come back to us in 6 months and say, that works so well, let's do another. So I kind of got off on a tangent there. What the next thing, once a client says, yes, let's go, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So like at what point are you writing and proposing ideas and then getting into production?
Yeah. So immediately we agree that this is a relationship we both want to enter into. Obviously, we get a deposit up front, and then it's the learning phase for about 2 weeks, and then the fun starts, the brainstorming. So this is the thing that a lot of people get really anxious about. How would I ever come up? I mean, I watch your videos, I watch the Harmon Brothers videos. How do you even come up with the concept? And that really, is the hardest part. And so here's a tip, here's a power tip. Don't think about coming up with good ideas. Put your goal to come up with bad ideas, because immediately you'll take the stress out. If your goal is to come up with bad ideas, I guarantee you can succeed. If your goal is to come up with a genius idea, I guarantee you most of the time you'll fail. So here's what we do. We put a goal on the whiteboard or the virtual whiteboard, right? Because I'm doing most of this online on a shared Google Doc. And the goal is to come up with 50 bad ideas. And by an idea, I qualify it as number one, who's the hero character in this video? Number two, what's the big problem that's entertaining, but that the product or service that you're selling solves? That's all. Don't worry about anything else. Who's the character? What's their fun problem? And if those are your two criteria, anyone can come up with it. And so what we do is we throw out those 50 ideas. Then obviously as an agency, we have to go to the client. We're never going to give them those 50 ideas. What we're going to do is when you put out that many ideas, I guarantee you'll find 5 good ones. Not great ones, but good ones. Then you take those 5 great ones to your client and you want them to have ownership. The last thing you want to do is ram your ideas down a client's throat. They have to have buy-in. Most of the time, I'll try to steer them to the one that I think is the best. But, you know, that's always the client-vendor dance. So once we got the one top idea, and sometimes, frankly, the big problem is getting our clients to decide on one. They're like, oh, I love these 3. I don't know how I would ever. And that's when you as a professional have to step in. And I hate it when I see experts that don't have a spine, right? Own your profession. You've been doing this for however many years for a reason, because if you weren't still doing it, you're no good. You have to step up and tell a client, you know what? Trust me. You gotta trust me. And so you move forward with that concept, and that's when you bring in those 8 writers that I've already talked about. So that's my process. And then the other one that let's talk about real quick, because I think it's the second most important part. And I think 90% of video producers don't do this well. It's casting, auditioning. So these videos they will be a success or they will fail miserably based on who we cast for that hero character. Yes, you can bring in friends and family to be extras and background people. Don't ever, 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 for this kind of video, a scripted top of funnel video, don't ever waste or skimp out because you won't spend that, $1,000 or $1,500 day rate for a really good actor and just say, oh, for $200, my friend who went to drama in high school can do it. Because that just won't work. We look at about 100 actors for every role that we cast. Now, that doesn't mean we audition them all, but we look at their profiles on their agencies. We'll ask for about 20 of them to give us, an emailed video audition. We'll distill it down to the top 5. We'll bring those 5 into our studio with the client here or on Zoom. Because anyone can do a great audition without any stress or pressure and pick the best of 20, but you got to see, can they be directed? Are they coachable? You know this. Your guys listening know this. But that's my second power tip. Get a great script and a great actor, and 80% of your work is done.
Yeah, I love that. We did a really big project at the end of this past year, and the client was adamant about, we had suggested talent we had worked with in the past, and we knew would nail it, but the client was just very adamant. We went with an agency, and the agency suggested this guy. They loved this guy, his audition tape or whatever. I guess it's not a tape, but we're on...
You're showing your age.
Yeah, exactly. We're on set with him, and it was a nightmare. I mean, he on the fly adjusting any changes. He's like, this wasn't on the script. I didn't rehearse it. We're like, well, dude, it's fine. It's just one line. It was a nightmare. So I think that's a really good second power tip there to bring them in for a real audition, or at worst just a live Zoom, something virtual, so that you can see them. Otherwise, risky.
Let me add to what you just said. Influencers and celebrities, I typically won't work with them because, again, that's a different kind of video.
Yeah.
But when you bring somebody in that already has baggage, I'll give you an example. We hired, and I won't name names, but we hired somebody that you would know their name, and we spent a lot of time and money producing a video. The very next week, her name was on CNN in a scandal. We couldn't use the video.
Oh my goodness, no.
Yes. We did another campaign where we brought in an influencer because the client was like, well, they already have an audience. And it was a nightmare to work with. You couldn't coach them. They have an ego. So find humble people who are hungry to work and hungry to do their very best. That's my advice as far as these kinds of videos.
Those are two of our core values, humble and hungry. Just left out smart.
That's
Love
awesome.
That. Man, this is so good. Lots of richness in here. I love where this conversation has gone.
Glad to be of help. Like I said, like I told you at the beginning, I've been listening to you for a long time, and I've learned a ton from your show. So if I can give back a little, then that's mission accomplished.
And thanks again. What's the URL for that download you had mentioned?
Yeah, just go to funnysalesvideos.com. Take a look at some of our videos, buy some of stuff from our clients, but then scroll down to the bottom and you can download that. And another place, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's just Funny Sales Videos. We posted yesterday a big stunt that we were doing in outside. It was kind of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Joseph, this has been so good. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy for your success, and thank you for inspiring me, because I'm leaving this conversation with 2 specific videos, and I'll share those ideas if they come a little bit further along down the process with you and with our viewing audience, listening audience, whatever they're called. But any
glad to help. And if I can get one more plug in.
Please.
So obviously your listeners are podcast listeners. I have my own podcast. It's called How to Make a Video Go Viral. I'm not nearly as regular as you are, not nearly as consistent, but we have some really good episodes. Yeah. But yeah, if you've liked anything you've heard here, we go way more into depth on every episode. I think we have, 30, 40 episodes. So there's still some good content.
And super smart. I'm assuming that becomes a good marketing tool for you guys as well.
Absolutely. Yep, that's part of the referral funnel.
I love that. Well, brother, it was great to meet. Thank you again for all that you shared. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye?
I think the biggest tip I can give people is stay curious. Keep watching. Look at what other people are doing. We would never be doing what we do today if we hadn't looked at what companies like the Harmon brothers were doing and looking at reverse engineering. How exactly are they doing that? So, that's the tip I'll leave is just stay a curiosity consuming machine.
Love that. Very good. Thank you, Joseph. Really, really appreciate our time together today.
Thanks, Ryan.
That was a super fun interview with Joseph. Really, really good insights. And I want to know, where are you at in this world of doing funny videos? Is this something that you would like to do? And if so, was this episode helpful in maybe how to do it more effectively? What was your big takeaway? Leave a comment on this video. Let me know if you want to leave a review for the show. You can do that on Apple Podcasts. Are you more or less likely to try this approach? Would love to hear from you. And don't forget about the brand new workshop that I've launched, how to consistently earn over $100,000 a year while working less than 40 hours a week. Grab it while it's free and available. StudioSherpas.com/workshop. You can follow me on the socials at Ryan Coral, it's Koral, or at Grow Your Video Business. Or you can email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com. Here at the world headquarters, this is actually not the world headquarters, this is the home quarters today. We're prepping. I'm prepping for the summer. My kids have an extended weekend right now. I'm recording this over Memorial Day weekend, actually on the Friday before the holiday. But we're getting ready for the summer. I'm excited. Launching a new YouTube channel later. Well, yeah, ideally in June, if all goes according to plan. Very excited about that. I've got so much juicy content that I am excited to share with you. Make sure that you're subscribed, that you're following along. If you're not inside of our Facebook group, you can get in there. And if you want the latest and greatest information, I send exclusive emails to people on my email list. So even if you're in the Facebook group, you might not necessarily be seeing all of or hearing about all of the cool things that we're doing, and even if you follow along on social. So make sure you're signed up for a workshop or something. If you go to our website, there's different places where you can sign up to get notified via email. So do that and stay up to speed on all of the goodness that's coming. Really, really excited to just keep sharing more and in different ways that can be most helpful for you. So if you have topics or ideas, ways that I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. This show and the things that I share are just more valuable with the feedback and the things that I hear from you on what you're struggling with, what you're frustrated with, what are some of your goals and things that you're trying to accomplish. And I can share my perspective and my insight and experience. So happy to do that. That's it. That's all. Okay, I'm going to go have an amazing week. I will talk to you very, very soon. See ya.